Ready to unlock the secret to perfect hazelnut harvesting? Stay tuned as we dive into expert tips and strategies that will absolutely transform your yield. Whether you're just foraging in the wild, tending to a backyard shrub, or managing a large-scale commercial orchard, getting the harvest right is literally the difference between a ruined crop and an incredibly delicious, lucrative bounty. Today, we're looking closely at the exact moments and methods that guarantee the absolute highest quality nuts. We're going to cover how to keep pests, molds, and bad weather at bay to make sure your harvest is a total success. So let's jump right into this explainer.
Here is our game plan for today. We'll start with an intro to hazelnut cultivation, move into the signs of harvest readiness, check out harvesting techniques and equipment, discuss post-harvest handling and drying, and finally wrap up with the economic and culinary potential.
All right, Section 1, Intro to Hazelnut Cultivation. To really master the harvest, we first have to understand the plant's anatomy. Hazelnuts are monoecious. Basically, that means they have separate male and female flowers living on the exact same plant. The male flowers, which are called catkins, form in late summer and shed their pollen early in the spring. And what's really amazing here is that they are entirely wind-pollinated, no bees required at all. In fact, the pollen from these catkins contains millions of seeds and can fly more than 60 kilometers just to pollinate a female plant. Once that happens, the nut develops inside a protective, leafy outer bract called an involucre, or, simply the husk.
Now, the great news is that hazelnuts are incredibly resilient. They're native across massive swaths of the northern hemisphere, and they tolerate a surprisingly wide range of soils. This includes marginal or sloping ground that just wouldn't work for traditional row crops. As long as you maintain a soil pH between 6.5 and 7.0 and ensure adequate drainage, because, trust me, they do not like sitting in boggy swamps, they will thrive. Depending on the variety, they're also super cold hardy, fitting perfectly into USDA hardiness zones 4 through 6.
Moving right along to Section 2, Signs of Harvest Readiness.
So, how do you know when it's go time? There's a very distinct sensory shift you're looking for here. As the nuts develop, that outer husk is a vibrant, moist green, and the hard shell inside is actually a pale cream color. If you give them a tug, they'll firmly resist. But as they ripen, the husk turns brown and dry, and the shell itself transforms into a smooth, light brown. You want to wait until the husk browns and the nut detaches with a satisfying twist and a distinct crack sound. That tells you the natural division line is completely broken open.
Timing-wise, your calendar depends entirely on your climate. In warmer southern regions or countries like Turkey, harvest begins in late July or August. But in cooler northern regions like New York or Maine, that ripening process stretches into September or even October. But here's the universal rule: act fast. While you want the nut to be brown and ripe, if you wait for every single husk to dry out completely while it's still hanging on the tree, the local squirrels, chipmunks, and birds are absolutely going to harvest them for you. Gather them the second they begin dropping to outsmart the wildlife. Let's get into Section 3, Harvesting Techniques and Equipment.
Traditionally, harvesting hazelnuts is a pretty backbreaking process. Since the nuts fall to the ground naturally, workers have to bend down at every single tree, pick them up, and toss them into sacks. Research actually shows that traditional hand-picking and sweeping requires an immense amount of seasonal labor. We're talking between 157 and 180 hours of human labor per hectare. And any delay in this manual process means the nuts are just sitting there on the moist ground, totally exposed to rot and pests. So, let's compare the methods, because transitioning to specialized machinery is a total game changer. Modern nut harvesting combines, like the Jolly 2800, can cover 0.065 hectares per hour with just a single operator. Other advanced machines, like the ones from FACMA, are designed to not only vacuum the nuts right off the ground, but simultaneously clean them of leaves and twigs. Now, sure, the initial capital investment is high, but it frees the grower from the massive headache of finding seasonal labor and desperately racing against the weather.
For commercial operations, mechanization follows a very specific three-step dance. First, sweepers drive through the orchard using air blasts or mechanical fingers to blow all the fallen nuts into a narrow windrow right in the center of the trees. Second, the harvester drives over that row, lifting the nuts and separating out all the debris. Finally, the clean nuts are deposited directly into tote boxes or trailers pulled by a forklift tractor. It's essentially a rapid, highly organized marathon to secure the crop before the autumn rains set in.
All right, Section 4, Post-Harvest Handling and Drying. This right here is the invisible toxic enemy of all hazelnut farmers, Aspergillus flavus and Aspergillus parasiticus. These molds cause aflatoxins, and they absolutely thrive when moisture is high.
particularly if your hazelnuts are left in contact with damp soil or stored improperly. If you don't dry your nuts quickly and properly, these devastating toxins will completely ruin the harvest, making it entirely unsafe for human consumption. It's a huge deal.
To guarantee food safety and ensure a long shelf life, you absolutely must follow a strict post-harvest curing protocol. The clock is ticking. You have a 24-hour window from the moment of harvest to begin the drying process. You've got to lay the nuts out in a single layer on clean concrete or aeration screens for excellent air circulation. If you're using a mechanical dryer, the sweet spot for temperature is right between 95 and 105 degrees Fahrenheit. Don't go over 110 degrees or you'll degrade the nut's quality. The ultimate goal? Drop the internal moisture of the kernel all the way down to a stable 6%.
And a massive weather warning for those of you drying outdoors. Never, ever let your drying hazelnuts sit directly in the dirt. You must use a cloth or jute awning beneath them. Also, if rain is in the forecast, you can't just throw a tarp directly over the nuts. That traps moisture and basically invites that toxic mold we just talked about. Instead, you need a raised cover. Think of it as a 30-centimeter high gazebo or pergola, set up to block rainfall while still allowing for that crucial airflow.
Finally, Section 5, Economic and Culinary Protection.
Take a look at that massive number, $2.5 billion. That is the estimated annual foreign currency inflow that hazelnuts bring to Turkey alone. Consider massive cooperatives like Ferrero's agricultural branches. They've successfully optimized entire regional supply chains just to meet this incredible global demand. Because of highly organized networks of local farmers scaling their yields, Turkey remains the undisputed global giant in the space, producing roughly 68% of the world's supply right along the Black Sea coast.
But hey, beyond the massive industrial scale, the retail margins are highly lucrative for local and mid-sized farmers anywhere in the world. Hazelnuts are consistently in short supply, and that drives retail pricing up to around $14.99 a pound for raw bulk nuts. Plus, their culinary versatility is completely unmatched. I mean, they're the backbone of chocolate spreads like Nutella, a fantastic base for pesto and premium baking, and they even yield high-quality cooking oils. And because they contain over 80% monounsaturated fats, they boast an exceptionally long shelf life. They are literally a dream ingredient for the food industry.
A quick heads up before we finish. Please remember that while this explainer covers the evergreen fundamental principles of hazelnut cultivation, the smartest growers always adapt. Your local soil pH, your specific hardiness zone, and your region's autumn rainfall will ultimately dictate your exact schedule. Always tailor these foundational strategies to your unique local environment to ensure the best possible yield. To wrap things up, I want to leave you with a question. What is the biggest challenge you face when harvesting or storing your hazelnuts? Is it beating the squirrels, dialing in your mechanical sweepers, or maybe managing the drying humidity? Jump into the comments and let's keep building this amazing community of agricultural knowledge. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and happy harvesting!